Greetings and welcome to Anno 1800. I'm KatherineOfSky and this guide is about making a quick and strong start to your colony. The first thing to think about in the game is choosing an island. Now you might think of the fertilities as one of the most important parts, but it's kind of a secondary consideration. For example, this place has hops, which is a nice thing for the worker class of people. However, the entire island is bisected by a river and there are cliffs, even though there are beautiful waterfalls here. So it's far better to choose an island like this one, which has the early game fertility of potatoes, and there is also grain for bread, and then red peppers for the artisan class. But there is an enormous area in the middle to build a proper city. One of the awesome resources for all of the Anno games, including Anno 1800, is the wiki at fandom.com. That's anno1800.fandom.com. Here we're looking at city layouts, which there are very few at the moment because not a lot of people have played the game yet, but they're still incredibly valuable. People spend a lot of time to look at getting the perfect layouts to make sure that all of the buildings cover the areas. Now in this tutorial, I'm going to use one of the bigger layouts, which is City 3, and you can see all of the houses over here. There are some repeated buildings like fire stations over here, but most of the central ones will cover this entire area. That's why we chose the island with the huge rectangular area on the inside. Once you've chosen an island, select your ship and click near the shore. As the ship moves in, oh, the sails are so gorgeous, you will see the trading post appear on the shore. Now make sure that you have enough room for some fisheries on either side, and then when you're ready, just click Build Trading Post. Now you can begin to actually build on your island. One of the great features about Anno 1800 is the ability to use blueprint mode. So we're going to switch that on right now, and we're going to go ahead and start building a framework for the city that we saw in the wiki. Now with blueprint mode on, what it does is create ghosts of houses. So we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, click and drag. There you go. And the same with this side. We're going to start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and again there, and place roads. Now these buildings aren't actually there. They are just blueprinted in place. This means we can upgrade the entire city and build the houses around central parts of the settlement where there are services, enabling us to keep our precious resources and only upgrade when needed. Next, to make sure you have plenty of building supplies, you're going to want to build 4 lumberjack huts and 4 sawmills at the very least. They're a 1-to-1 ratio, so 1 lumberjack hut per sawmill. Make sure they're in range of 1 or 2 warehouses for easy transportation, and build your warehouses first before you go and build your living quarters or other houses or farmer houses, because they cost lumber to build, whereas the sawmills and the lumberjack's hut only cost gold. To make some extra money, you'll want to set up trading as soon as possible. Click on your trading post, and there you can assign the goods that you want to trade. Now, if you click a symbol, you'll get the option to start trading it. Now, the first symbol that comes up is balance. That means that the goods will be bought and sold up to the limit set. So this means if you have a limit marker like this, it will sell down to the marker, but if you have less in stock, it will also buy from traders. I recommend only buying what you want and then selling the rest. Selling is the button to the left, and there you can just say sell everything above a certain amount. As you can see here in this city, I'm selling some work clothes, selling fish, and selling schnapps. But I don't actually have enough work clothes, so it's not going to sell anything until it gets up to that limit. But the schnapps, we're having a great supply of that, so it's going to sell everything above that arrow. If you decide to build a city freehand and not use one of the layouts on the wiki, be very careful about the range of the buildings. And this is very important with service buildings such as the church and the pub and other public service buildings, as well as the warehouses. You can see if you click on a building, such as the church, how far its range extends. Other buildings like the fire station have a much smaller range, and you can see which buildings are best protected by the color of the road. So if it's dark green like this, these are the houses and things that will be best protected by this fire station, whereas buildings at the end of the road will not be. You can see that buildings over here have 0 fire protection. And the same goes with the delivery radius of certain buildings like the sawmills. For example, when I first built these sawmills out here, this was our only warehouse slash trading post, and the carts could not make it all the way here because there is no green line. So I had to build extra warehouses nearby. Speaking of warehouses, in general, it's far better to build a second warehouse rather than upgrade the first if you have carts waiting on the loading ramps. They are much more expensive. If we look at this, if we upgrade the warehouse, you'll see it costs 20 to maintain the regular warehouse, and it's 50 to maintain the upgraded warehouse, and it only adds 1 extra loading ramp. Whereas adding a second one, you would have less cost and 2 loading ramps instead of just 1. With production, it's tempting to start off with a minimum number of buildings. So most people would probably start off with 2 knitters and 2 sheep farms. They're a 1-to-1 ratio. That just about provides for a small city. But if you start off with 4 of each instead, you'll produce enough to sell through your trading post. And that will give you a little bit of gold and a little bit of leeway on producing for your colony. So always build more than you think you need if you need a little bit of gold on the side. Now, if you truly want to min-max your gameplay, you can go to the production layouts on the Anno 1800 wiki. Here you'll find all kinds of optimized production layouts for whatever you may desire to do. There, for example, here we have a beer layout, bread production, sales, sausages, all kinds of things, and over time, as more people get access to the game, these will be just overflowing here, so you can choose what works best for your island. Another thing you can look for on the internet is an Anno calculator. These basically calculate everything you need for X amount of people. So say if you have 1,000 farmers and 1,200 workers, you need this much workforce to deal with them, and these many of the production buildings just to satisfy their needs. This can be really helpful if you have a big city, or maybe a tiny city on an alternate island where you just need to figure out exactly how much you need to produce to satisfy the workforce on the island. Now, as the game gets more and more distributed, there will be more of these, so check that out. Just in case you're not looking at a production calculator, I want to show you how to calculate ratios easily. For example, we'll start off with something simple. The lumberjack's hut and the sawmill both produce goods at 15 seconds apiece, so therefore they are a 1-to-1 ratio. But if you look at, for example, something like bread and grain, it has a different ratio. Grain farms produce every 1 minute. However, flour mills produce every 30 seconds. So 1 flour mill can take the produce of 2 grain farms. And once you get to the bakeries, it takes a little bit longer to make that bread. So you need 2 bakeries for every 1 flour mill. Therefore, here we have our 2 bakeries, our 1 flour mill, and our 2 grain production farms. I hope these tips and tricks have been useful for you, and I hope you have an amazing time building your cities and islands up to the way you want them to be. I thank you so very much for joining me, and if you are buying the game on the Epic Store, I would be grateful if you'd use my creator code KatherineOfSky. So take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you next time.